You can go ahead now.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I trust we've been having a good time. Um, uh, so the other time we're talking about API response. I mean, how to manage API and also JSON serialization and deserialization. So during the last class, we kind of like get introduction to what is meant by API. So, we also talked about the significance of it in mobile application development. So, and I remember I gave us some assignments, right? Some assignment here to explore things out before this today class. That is kind of like preparation towards today class. So, I hope you guys will do do righteousness, right? So in today's class, like we kind of have a bit more work to do, right? So we're not gonna waste much of our time. So we're just gonna dive right in, okay? So with that said, I'll be sharing my screen right now. Do we have any question based on the assignment I gave us the other time? That is the research I said we should make. Does any of us have question? Maybe you were trying to install Postman or other clients and you were encountering issues. So was there anything of such? You can unmute and speak, okay? Can you all hear me? All right, all right, all right. Okay, oh yeah, Precious going.
Okay. Okay, the thing is that I was not really feeling fine on that day, so I was not in the class and I just recovered. So that
Oh,
is the only
sorry,
class I missed.
sorry about that. I hope you feel better now.
Yes, yes. Sir.
So you're gonna like this is a catch for you, so you're gonna get everything today also. We didn't do much actually, just like introduction.
Yes, sir.
Uh, uh so I'm sharing my screen now, like okay. So can we all see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. So now basically what you're going to do today is we are going to continue from where we stopped the other time. That is API, just as I said before, API integration in Flutter development, and also how to do JSON serialization and deserialization. Okay, for the purpose of like of consistency in this class, let me just walk us through what we talked about previously, just for us all to be on the same page, okay? So basically I want to explain the API and the JSON will be treating before we get into work, okay? So JSON is a format through which data is exchanged across the internet, okay? What I mean by that is I've said it earlier that in development, both web and mobile development, basically what you do in essence, that's in the widest context, right? What you do exactly is exchange of data. So you send data to a database and you get data from database. So that is basically all you are doing. 90% of the time that is what you are doing. All right. So this data you are exchanging between different server, that is between client and the server, is expected to be in a particular format. Okay. So remember we've talked about data typing that, right? Like we've been taught data typing that, where you were taught string, number, boolean, function, and all, right? So those are the kind of data you can be sending back and forth between different servers. Okay. So and you also be told that you can create your own custom data in that For instance, when you're building application that require user to sign in and sign out, right? You want to create a user data, like a user data for that end, for that purpose. Okay. So that data you created for the purpose of your application that you customize to suit that your application, it is termed as complex data. All those string, number, int, double latitude, detrite, they are simple data. Okay, they are pre-built in that. Okay, so I mean, that actually understand it. So when you are building your own custom data, which is something you do almost all the time when you're building a real application, so you have to convert that complex data into a format that can be understood by a machine, that is computers. Okay, so that is where the idea of serialization and deserialization and JSON come into the picture. JSON is an abbreviation for JavaScript syntax object notation. Okay, JavaScript object notation rather. So JavaScript is a programming language, guys. So it is kind of like a standard through which data is exchanged between between different servers. Okay, so two different computer will be able, like, developers or the organization in charge, they kind of like come to a conclusion that that is the standard that we should be using in exchanging data. So your computer and the server you are working with, they both understand that JSON notation, they understand that JSON format. So because of that, it is a kind of way easier for you to send data in form of that JSON. So JSON, they call it JSON string. It's actually a string, the string you've been dealing with. So JSON is also in a string format. Okay, so but it's an object data, map. We call it map in name. That's right. It's a map that is stringified. So that is what they call JSON. JSON. Okay, so we are going to see it like very soon. So I'm just like giving us like setting us up for it. Okay. Another thing we want to understand is serialization and deserialization. Serialization is a process through which you convert this complex data. That complex data, for instance, okay, let me try to write some code, okay, to paint the picture of what I'm talking about. Okay, what we're going to do, let's first create Flutter project we're going to work with. Okay, let's create Flutter projects. I'm sure we've all known how to do this, right? CD into my desktop, and then Flutter creates. Let's call the project API tutorial. Like, I'll just call it anything. You can decide to call your name whatever you like. Okay, API tutorial. So let's wait for it to complete. Okay. Okay, so there we have it. I'll feed into it at API tutorial, then open it on Visual Studio Code. Awesome. So yes, I just want to explain something to us. That is that serialization and deserialization. I want to like use code to paint the picture so that we can get it better that way. So I'll go to my lib folder. Right? I'll just create a sample M5. Let me just call it sample dot. Okay. So just to explain this serialization. When I say complex data, like your user data, is something like this. You are building an e-commerce application, right? So you want to create a data for user. You can do something like this, final with a string, their name. Then you can also have something like this again, final integer, their age. Then you can have final string, their email, and their password, and so then to mitigate all this error, you can just highlight any of the field here. You can highlight any of the field here. Then you press on control dot, your control dot. Okay, so it will bring this option. Then you just add create a constructor for all of them, a required constructor, so you can automate it that way. Do we all get that? We all get it flow, right? So, all right, so this is a data. I mean, this is a user data now. A user data that is made of name, age, and email. So maybe this is what I require from any user that is signing into my application to give me before they could access my application. So this is called data now. This data, I mean, I'm not the one dealing with it, right? I have to like save it somewhere, which we, I mean, what that is what we call database. Like, we have to save it in a database. So, and I've established it before that this data type is a complex data type because that's the one that understand. We just created it. Unlike this string is also a data type, right? But that understand it because they are the one that give us right after that. Okay, it is tribute with that, but this user isn't. So because of that, for us to be able to, and other computer too, the server we are sending to, I mean, when we say server, like it's just another computer out there, right? That is that we can send a request to, and it will give us back a response. Okay, so that is that's just the idea. So the server out there too, they too don't understand this user object we just created. I mean, our own that does not even understand it, let alone other servers. So you could see the gap, right? So because of that, that is why we have to come to a kind of like a standard through which we can convert any data to that we can share between different computers. Okay, so that is where that idea of JSON that I've spoken about before comes in. Okay, so the process of converting this complex data into this JSON string. Let me something like this is what is called JSON. Okay. Guessing, we've all known map, right? We've all known mapping. That map is something like this. Let me create user map. Map string. Let me say string also. Then let me call this user map. So I can okay. Let's just use this. No, this will not work. Let's send name. Name. Possession is working like crazy. So let's actually use that John to. Oh, okay. Precious is on the call. Let's use Precious instead. Okay. Then since I cannot use this suggestion, right? It is telling me to use age with a string of strength. It doesn't make sense. Age obviously has to be a number, not a string. So I don't want to make use of it. I would rather use something different. Let me say, what can we use? Stack. Let's say something like stack. Okay. Flutter developer, right? Flutter developer. So this makes sense, right? So this is what we call mapping that, right? A key value pair, a key value pair. So name is the key, the value it is holding is precious. Stack is a key, the value it is holding is Flutter developer. So this is what we call map. In that, in other like different programming languages have different name for it. Like in Python, they call something like this dictionary there. Okay. In Java they call it hash map. Then in JavaScript they call it object unknown. So this is map. Then JSON is exactly similar to map, just that everything is stringified. Okay, everything is stringified. That's why they call it. They also call JSON JSON string. I mean, some people use it interchangeably. Okay, it is this kind of map that is stringified. So kind of like something like that. If you want to convert this user map into JSON now, practically this is how it should be. We are not using JSON encode now. Like, we just want to show this exact data in a JSON format. Okay, it should be like something like this. Okay, in that case you cannot use map, right? Because you are using JSON. Let me just, though that doesn't have a data type called JSON, so it should it's definitely gonna throw us an error. Okay, but I just want us to see how it looks. So it should be a string. Okay, then okay, you see this auto accommodation. The thing is very, 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 very handy. Okay, Or let me use variable. Let's use variable as for the declaration. Okay, it won't still work because of the reading I've given before it starts, something like this. Or let's use string then. It will still not work actually. So because this is JSON, that has, the compiler has known that it has been able to distinguish it from string. It is JSON actually. So JSON is not available in that. That is why we cannot use any data type for it. Okay. So, but the idea is this is how JSON look like. It's look like a map, but everything is stringified. Notice how these curly braces are also in these double quote sites. So this is the format. This is the format they call JSON, JavaScript object notation. Okay. So any data, anytime you want to, exchange data between different platforms or servers. Okay. So this is the most accepted format. There are other different formats. Okay. Like there's one they call XML2. XML that is kind of like a markup language, the one you use in your HTML. Is another standard through which you can exchange data between different servers. But the most accepted one is this JSON, and that is what we use in that too. So I think we get the idea now. Do we understand before I move on? Do we understand what
Yes,
exactly
sir.
is meant by JSON?
Yes, yes, yes.
Oh, all right, awesome. So now, okay, this is my project. All right. So now we are talking about serialization, right? Serialization is a process through which you convert this user data into a format like this, into something like this that other computer can understand. That is simply what they call serialization. Okay, let me spell it here. What you've just done like this now, without this guy here, let's not assign it to a variable. Let's just have this. This is serialization of this user data into JSON. Okay, so that guy is what we call serialization. Okay, serialization. Then the other one, deserialization, right, is the process. Okay, why deserialization? Like, why do we need it? Sometimes when you are building application, we don't only want to be posting or sending data to a database, right? There are sometimes you also need to fetch data from database. Maybe you are building e-commerce platform, right? You want to fetch products from the database you are using and display it in your UI. So that one is kind of like get request, right? Like we are fetching data from the database, we are getting data, so they call it get request. So there are times you do something like that also. So remember, you should know, like you should be able to deduce now that the format that data you are fetching from any database is gonna be will also be a JSON. You convert to JSON to send to database. You are getting from database should also be in JSON, right? Just as we are seeing here right now, you see when we wanted to assign a variable to this, it was throwing us error because that doesn't understand JSON. JSON is not part of that. So same thing still apply when you are getting data in JSON formats. We cannot make use of it in that format, okay? Because that don't understand what the hell is JSON, okay? We also have to convert it into a data object. I think we've covered this. We must have covered this in our previous class, right? We should have understood what is meant by that object, that classes, string, and all other data types. So when you are getting JSON from a database, you also have to convert it into a data object, like a format that can also work with. So that is where the idea of deserialization comes from. Okay, we first serialize and send it to database. So we are getting JSON from database, and we have to also deserialize it into a format we can work with in that. Okay. So that is the idea of deserialization. So we are going to see all of this in action very soon or in no time. Okay. So that is the concept I want us to get beforehand. Let me just commit all this code. Sorry, just coming to my realization that most of the code I used to use for us, I don't used to make them available for us. It has never come to my, I mean, or nobody has actually bought it up before I could think of it. It's not actually a good idea. I mean, it's something I should have been making available to us so that if you want to like practice with it. So at the end of this class, I'm gonna make this very one available to us. So now let me introduce all the projects we are going to build. We are going to make use of an API. I mean, play with an API, okay? Fetch data from online and display it in a Flutter application, okay? You also see how things work in in a grand scheme of things, okay? I was trying to, I've been having a lot in my hands, so few hours prior to this class, I was trying to build a currency converter in this tutorial, currency converter, but then I don't have that luxury of time to actually search for the right API to make use of. So because of that, I ran out of time. So what I later resort to is to use JSON placeholder, okay? JSON placeholder. JSON placeholder. So this is what we're going to make use of. This JSON placeholder is a REST API, okay? That contains fake data for testing and prototyping. Let's see it in action. JSON placeholder. You can also just type it on your browser too to see what it's all about. JSON placeholder.com. Okay. Okay, I'm sending request to the user endpoints. I want us to go to the real page. Okay. So if you type jsonholder.typicode.com, you get something like this. Or you just type JSON placeholder on your browser. The first link you see, click on it, will take you to this page. Okay. So basically, this is a REST API that is meant for testing and prototyping. So it just for us to simulate how things work. Okay. Rather than us building a backend server, like building a backend API from scratch to use to demonstrate how to work with backend. So this is a fake data. It contains, it is a fake data because the data is of no use, of no essence. So that is why we call it fake data. Okay. So, but the idea is just for us to be able to like prototype, to simulate how things work in a real sense. Okay. So that is what you're going to use. If you read through it, it has all these endpoints. It has post endpoints of about 100 posts, comment endpoint of about 500 comments, album endpoint, and so on and so forth. So, but the endpoint that we are going to make use of in our application, this user endpoints, the reason being that it contains the least number of output sites. I don't want us to. Just when I explore all of them, like these posts, let's check it out. I hope are we all following? Like, are we also opening this page on our own end? If you are doing it that way,
Yes.
okay, awesome. If you're doing it that way, like you might notice that my format is different from what you're having now. It should definitely be different because I'm using an extension. I'm using an extension called JSON Viewer Pro, JSON Viewer Pro. Okay, so it's something you want to have to just search on it. Maybe after this class or right now, JSON Viewer Pro. Search it by it on the name, search by the name, and add it to your Chrome or whatever browser you are using. Like, and what it does is you should have seen how this data look like without it. Like, they look so weird, right? You cannot even make sense of it. So this guy helps you to like present it in a more beautiful way, in a more visually aesthetic manner, right? So like we can see each of the item in this array right now, in this list right now, right? Unlike the one you are seeing in your own computer. My own is way more organized, right? So that is what that extension is doing. So it also allows you to view the time in chat formats. Maybe the server is down. Okay, this is another format JSON input, but on a good day, it can also present the data for you in chats. but maybe they are having issue at their own end right now. So it's not a must to have it, but it's a nice to have. Okay, you can add it to your browser too, because when you are working with API in the future, okay, you don't want to undergo any, you don't want to undergo too much hassle, right? It also allow you to copy part, copy value. So rather than trying to like doing all this thing manually, this guy just, I mean, shrug off a lot of adversity from your own end. Okay, so now this is one of the endpoints, json.com/post. It contains things like this. So I mean, you see the kind of data the JSON placeholder that contain, right? I mean, they are just like dummy text. Look at it. So that's why we call it fake data. It just was, but real data, when you are dealing with real data, this is how exactly it should look like also. It's just that the difference between this one and the real data is that real data contains something that makes sense. But this one is just like dummy text. Okay, that is different, but the format is the same. So if you're able to get this one very well, you'll be able to play around with actual data. Okay. All right, so now let's go back to other endpoints we have in the placeholder. Yeah, we have posts, comments, and this. I said we are going to make use of this user data. Let's see the format of the user data. So you see this one is more comprehensive. That is why I choose it for us. Okay, it has name, very short, and the name makes sense. Graham, this case, right? It has username, it has email, and address and all. So what you're going to do in this session, we'll build, like we'll consume this API into our application. Okay, like we'll fetch this data into our Flutter application and display it in our mobile app. That API tutorial we just created, we display these users. So that is like most of the time, that is what the nature of work you'll be doing. You display data, you fetch data from backend, display it in mobile application, send data from the user is typing, like maybe searching on a search feed or input or entering data in input feed. So you also take it and send it back to a database. So most of the time that will be your work, and also managing states as a Flutter developer. These are things you are going to be doing day in, day out. Okay. So it's better you just get hang of it. The earlier the better, right? Yeah. So I think we get the idea of what we're going to do now. So we build a mobile application to display, let's say, maybe we display the name and the email. Yeah, those two. So we just display the name and the email in a format and just see how things work. All right, so with that said, do you have any question before we move on to the actual, the real deal? Any question? Any question? Okay. So in absence of no question, let's move on. So let's first clean this boilerplate that Flutter generated for us. So we don't need all this. This is the default counter operate. We don't need it. Let's remove it. We don't need it. Okay, so this guy is no longer existing. That's why we are having that error. So let's just leave it for now. Let's leave it like we create or let's remove it. Right, let's not confuse ourselves. Let's remove it too. We don't have that data again anymore. Then all these comments, I don't like it. Let's wipe them off too. So our code is a bit more cleaner now, right? So this is where we are going to start from. Yeah, so I just want us to have the idea or paint a picture for us on how things work ideally, like on a professional setting. Okay, so despite that this project idea is like it's kind of like capstone project. I mean, a very primitive project, right? It's very simple one. So I'm gonna follow best practices. Okay, the way you build a bigger project, so that when that time comes, you can be able to like work your way around. Okay, so what I mean is when you're building an application, there's I mean architectural approach they call MVCM approach, okay, where you have model, view, and controller. So that is what I'm going to do for us, okay. Actually, we can just build everything. This project we are trying to build, right? We can build everything in one file, like everything, just the way that Flutter project we deleted. No, it is a counter app, right? But Flutter built everything for us in a one file like this. It is not creating sub files because the project is a very simple one, just a counter app. So since our one is also that simple, we could just do similar thing, building everything here. But I'm saying I want us to simulate how things work in a professional settings, okay. Because of that, I'm gonna walk us through the stand. We're going to approach it in a standard way, okay. So the approach or the architectural pattern that I made mention of is called MVC, okay. MVC is short for model view controller. So model here, this guy here is there's another one actually. I mean, my AI is auto suggesting for us. There's another one called model view model. So this one is not mostly used. I mean, this is the one we used to use most of the time. The reason for this is to enhance scalability. Okay, when you are building a project, maybe a startup project or a project that has future, okay, that has potential future, right? So definitely, it's gonna scale, right? I mean, just imagine how Facebook started. I mean, started as a side project before, right? Before, like, you cannot even imagine how robust it is right now, right? So when you're building a project that has future, you have to also plan for scalability alongside, okay, because that is what gives rise to this this pattern, to structure your code like this, so that the idea is in any project what you are dealing with data, right? You are dealing with data, so this model is kind of like a blueprint for the data you are working with. In this case, in our own case, the data we are working with is this JSON placeholder. This data, we said we want to make use of this name, email, and what else? Should we put city? Let's include city, right? Name, username, and name, email, and city. So we want to play with those three data, right? This model will be a blueprint for the data we are trying to work with, okay? The model will contain the blueprint for the data we are trying to work with. Then the controller, just as it sounds, is actually a controller, okay? It is all the function, all the logic that is going to help you to do networking, like make a request to a server, a backend, fetch data from there and put it in your mobile application, or get the data from your mobile application, send it to a server out there. So this one, they are networking computation, right? So all those kind of logic, you are going to put them inside this controller folder. Then anything that has to do with UI, like user interface, what user is gonna see in your application. So you put all those one in your view folder. So that is a MVC pattern, okay? Data goes into a model. I mean, model is for the data blueprint. The viewer, all the pages, the screen, the homepage, your product page, your sign-in page, your sign-up page, all those kind of pages, they goes into the view. Controller, the function, the logic you write to fetch user data, to fetch product data, to fetch checkout data and all. So they goes into this controller. So that's the idea. So we're going to do the same thing in our application, even though it's a very simple one, but it is worth doing, okay? So let's create a folder called model. Another one. Oh no, we are not creating it inside the model. And all this, the three folders, they are going to be inside lib folder, okay? So they are going to be inside the folder. We create another one called view, right? Then we create another one called controller. So let me ask, how are you guys following up? Oh, sorry, it's not meant to be inside. I created the next one inside the view. It's supposed to be, actually the three of them will be inside the lib folder, okay? So let's first switch to the lib folder. Then from there, we'll click on this. Yeah. So a quick one. How many of you is typing along? Like as I'm typing, you're also typing. How many of you are doing, are using that approach in this scholar, Okay, Precious and Kevin. That's good, but maybe perhaps that is what works for you, right? But I'm just thinking it should be better if you could just listen to what you are doing. Just try to get the idea, right? Since I'll be sharing the code for us at the end of the day, you should just try to get idea. Maybe immediately after this class, try to like reinvent, like replicate what we've done in this session. So I believe with that approach, I'll be able to like you should be tougher, right? Because just like we are trying to, you'll be able to get the thought process here, just work like that. So rather than you trying to like following me up, so you might get lost at the end of the way, because I mean it just work that way anyway. So I will recommend for you to listen attentively, try to get every single detail of everything. Then after the class, then you try to like build what you are. I mean, we do what you are doing. Okay. So if at all I need you to do something alongside with me, maybe just as the way we open and getting place so that the other time. So I will let you know when it gets to that part that I want you to explore with me. So I'll just tell you we'll do it together. But for the code part, I will suggest you just listen to me. Then later you do it on your own. If you are doing it on your own and you get stuck, you reach out to us, to me or any other instructor in the house. Then we'll be able to like, when we rub mind together, we'll be able to figure out ourselves. Or first try online resources. Okay, when you have problem, do handle things the way professional developers do things. Okay, Google, AI, ChatGPT, and all they are at your disposal. So professionals use it to make their life easy. Okay. There's another debugging tool called Stack Overflow. Any problem you have, copy the error code, post it online. So it will first take you to Stack Overflow. If you don't get your solution there, go to ChatGPT. First use ChatGPT. If it doesn't give you a solution, go to Stack Overflow, do online search and all of that. So if at all everything still don't avail, right, so you can now reach out to us. So I'm saying anytime you encounter a problem, like try to go about it professionally. When you are in your journey to become a fully fledged developer, most of the time, the honest truth is that you're not gonna have everybody. You are not gonna have someone to be there for you at all time, okay? Because everybody has their own responsibility. I'm not saying this to discourage us not to be reaching out to. I'm just telling you how the things operate. I mean, practically, like in real sense, in real life, okay. So I just want us to to develop that mindset beforehand. Okay, you can always reach out to us, and we'll be there to, respond to your queries. But it's up to your own personal development if you are doing it. If you are doing the things in the hard way, okay. I call it the hard way because it's actually tougher than. I mean, it is more daunting for you to undergo all this process doing online search and all than for you to just reach out to one instructor. The instructor just tell you what to do. But that is not the best thing, because you are not exposing yourself to outside the world doing it in that way. So when you do your own searches, you even get to discover things that you you wouldn't have known, okay, or any instructor would have told you. So you get to discover things along the way following that route, okay. So that's one of the that I just want to bring this to our notice too. So now let's go back to work. All right. So we've created the folder site. Let's start with our model. Okay, you start with our model. The model, inside the model, let's create a data. A file rather. So, all right. So the file, we said the endpoint we're going to use from the JSON placeholder. The endpoint we're going to use from the JSON placeholder is user endpoint, right? This user endpoints, or is it this user endpoint? So let's call that our model class user, okay? Let's call our model class user. User dot, okay. Yeah. Then let's clear the class. Okay, so what's gonna go? my AI is very competent. Okay, so I use it a lot. It make my life easy. Okay, but then before you use it, I try to do these things manually first. Okay. Okay. So for you to draft your blueprints, you have to understand the data you are dealing with. Here we have ID, name, username, email address, but we chose just few, right? We chose name. We chose to make use of name and email, right? So those are the thing, and city, right? Those are the thing we need. So we don't want to display all these data, right? So usually you are going to be selective in the kind of data you deal with. So in our model now, I don't want to close this part because I don't want to lose track of the changes I made. So in this your model now, those data that you want to make use of is what you're going to do. I mean, use this guy to represent. Okay, so the first one is name. You have your final name is string, right? String, then name. Then the next one is email, right? Email. Then and the next one is city, right? City is also a string. City. So these are the data we care about. So I've said it before, like your control and full stop, that is control dots. You should bring this pop up. You choose this guy to help you create the constructor and make each of the field required. But if you don't want any field to be required, you can feel free to remove this guy, but you have an error, okay? Because this guy help you to initialize it, right? I think we walked through class before in our previous class. Right? So what just happened now is that whenever you create a field or you declare a field that's expected to initialize it at the same time, that is assign a value to it. So when you are using this required in our constructor for the field, what you are telling that is that we've made it compulsory before we get to use any of these fields, any of this guy here, either names, string, or city. We are telling this require is telling that we must provide the value before we make use of it. So that is why when we remove the required here, that is like, what if you don't give me the value of city before you attempt to make use of it? So that is why it is throwing off this error. So because since we don't have value for it yet, right, we make it required also. So yeah. Then first thing, my AI is very powerful. It has told us how to do the deserialization, right? So next thing is that we do deserialization. I could have just like follow my AI if I'm the one working on the project just to make things very snappy. But for the purpose of our tutorial, I'm going to type things manually, bit by bit. Okay. So first thing, yeah, there's standard in doing this. Okay, there's also a package like third-party package you could use to do this. There's one called Json serializer. You could just add that one to your DAX, and it will help you to automate everything. Copilot 2 is here doing the magic for us, and then there's another extension you can use in your VS Code that will do it for you. I think I have the extension. Let me check the name. I can't remember it right now. Um, okay. I've forgotten them anyway, so but you can look at it here. Guessing that model. So this guy will also help you to do serialization and deserialization without any stress. Yeah, and it is necessary you are automating it when you're building complex projects, right? Imagine you're building a very complex project and you don't want to be doing all these things. Even aside the fact that it is time consuming, it is also you are also prone to error trying to do it manually. So you could just use any of these helping tools to help you automate the process. But let's get the idea first, right, before we start automation in the future. Okay. So let's start with deserialization. Okay, get this now. Okay, deserialization is used when you are fetching. This deserialization method, you can name it any name, but conventionally, we normally name it from JC, the method you use to deserialize. Remember what is meant by deserialization. converting JSON to that object, that is to that object which is format you can work with in your application. So the name of the method that do that task for you is the name. I mean, it's something you can give any I mean, there is a convention, right? I mean, standards or best practice, right? For it. So we normally name it from JSON. Notwithstanding, you can give it any name you like, but we all want to be, I mean, it is why we follow the act of best practice, right? So you use that guy from JSON to convert JSON into that object. Then I'm telling you now that you use this serialization if you are getting when you are getting a data from database and you want to display it in your app, which is exactly what you want to do now. Then the other guide, serialization, is when you are getting a data from your app. Maybe in your application, user has to enter their name, their username, their email address, and you want to send it to a database, right? That is, in this case now, you are the one sending to a database. That one they call it post request, right? So that is where you use serialization. So the first method I said we called it from JSON, right? From JSON. Then the other method we call it to JSON too, okay? As you can guess, to JSON. So this guy is when you want to be the one to give, when you want to be the one to send data to. So when you are sending data to a database, right? When you want to convert your object to JSON, okay, this is also right, but I just want us to know, I mean, to grab it with what is most relatable, right? When you are sending data to a database, sending data to the server. All right, so the AI is actually very smart. Then that is when you use this guy to JSON. Then, but if you are using from JSON, you use it when you are receiving data from the server, that is from a database. Server, database, they're the same thing, right? So that is the logic behind it. Okay. So in our own case, ordinarily we don't need to JSON and to JSON method, we don't need it because we are not sending any data to any database. We don't even have database. We are not using Firebase. We are not using MongoDB. We are not using any MySQL or anything of that nature. So ordinarily, we don't need to JSON, but I'm still going to include it in our code for sake of knowledge. Okay. So actually, you can start with any of the two. You can first create your to JSON method first, or your from JSON method first. So you can start with anyone first. But most of the time, the way I used to do my own is to start with to JSON first. Okay. I don't know why this guy is suggesting I should start from JSON. I'll follow my own convention. Okay. I'll start from to JSON first. Okay. To JSON. Okay, let's create it. Like, you should, I mean, you should be able to follow along with me now, right? That's because we've already established what it means. You convert JSON to JSON means you are converting that object or that data type into JSON. JSON is just like a string and it looks like that map. Okay, so that is why you are seeing this kind of logic. So it goes as does map. Is map you are what you are returning is map, right? So that is why we are having this one. Then dynamic, meaning the value it should be holding could be any data type. That is why we are using dynamic there. Then the name is to JSON. Remember, you can also give it any name, but you will want to follow the standard, right? So, okay. All right, so I mean, my AI is very functional. It is suggesting everything for us, but I don't want us to just be rushing things. I want us to be taking bit by bit. So this is the class. I mean, this is how you structure it to JSON. Then you return the JSON map. That's sorry, I don't want us to use the auto recommendation. You return the JSON map that you are dealing with again. So whenever you are returning, you have to put your semicolon right to get rid of error. So the first data we have there is name, right? So you do it like this. That is, you type the name that is the key, and you also assign the data you are dealing with to it again. So same thing applied to the next guy, email, then the other guy, the SCT2. Right? So that is how it works. So this is our 2JSON method. It's nothing more than this, okay? This 2JSON. But when you look at this thing very well, especially when you understand that very well, you will know that this guy, I mean, this name doesn't tally. What we did now is that we are returning map, that map. That is why we specified map here. We are actually returning that map. Why should we call it to JSON? Yeah, we are not actually converting to JSON by this. Before we still convert this guy to JSON, you have to use I mean that library called that converter to convert this JSON to, I mean this map to JSON. So meaning the idea is this, what you've just done right now is not it's not, I mean, has not taken us finally to JSON. This is just like an intermediary step. We converted that object, to, we converted that object to map right now, not actually to JSON. But the conversion is to use to JSON for this, okay? Because that is the big picture. So if you like, I mean, sometimes the way I used to do my own is to name this, is to disrupt the norms. I kind of like disrupt the norms, right? Go and get the norms. I'll name my own to map. Right. So then I'll now have a helping function. A helping function that help me to convert the map into JSON, something like this. String to JSON. Then this is a function, right? The function name is to JSON. I will be returning string. That is why I specify string here. So I could just do it like this, or I want to use arrows function, okay? So then I will use JSON decode. They say that library called JSON decode. Okay, you will import it, JSON.encode, and then right. So but you're having error because you not import the library, which is that converts. You will see it now. So this is how I love to go about my own. So I mean, it just makes sense for me this way, okay? Ordinarily, I could have just followed the convention, but when I get to post the data to any database, I will still have to. So are we still together? Because I noticed call came in. I feel like I must have been disconnected from the network. Are we still together? Okay. I thought I've been disconnected. All right. So if I should have gone, follow the usual method, like letting this one to be to JSON, where I'm consuming this function, I will still have to do this guy there. So me, I just prefer setting everything in here, so that when I'm needing it somewhere, like maybe I want to use it in a particular class, I'll just do something like, let's say the name of the data I want to apply it on is called data. Let's say this is where what I want to apply it to. I'll just do something like this, data.to.json. So I'll just call it like this, and help me to convert my data into JSON. So I just find it handy that way. So that's why I normally approach it in that manner. So these two guys, they represent our serialization, okay? Our serialization, okay? Serialization. So just let's recap. Serialization is in two steps. First thing, we convert that object, that map. That object, all these objects, all these fields, right? We first convert them into a that object by writing a function. A function inside the class is called method, right? By writing a method that return a map, which is these guys here. Okay, so that's the first step. Then later we then convert that map into a JSON using that library called that convert. Okay, we created another function called to JSON that take the map and convert it to the actual JSON. Okay, so we pass the function to another function. This is called a higher order function, right? So we pass into to an encode method and tells us to do this serialization magic. Okay. So with that, we are done with serialization, though we don't need it in this our project, but for the anytime whenever you have to have something to do with it, you can also resort to this, right? So now let's go to the actual one we need, which is the deserialization. Okay. So the deserialization, we use something called factory constructor. I need to be a bit more fast because I think my battery is running down. Yeah, we need to use factory constructor. Factory constructor is different from our ordinary constructor. I think yeah, it's not a stranger. It's no longer a strange word that we all should have known what is meant by constructor now. This is a constructor, right? Constructor is the guy that actually helps you to do object instantiation. Okay, it is the guy. It is what that help you to create instance of classes, instance of objects from classes. Okay, that is after you created your class. Class is just like a blueprint, right? After you created your class and you want to create an object from that class, what helps you to do it is called constructor. And here, this is our constructor, right? This user. So there is ordinary or normal constructor, which is this guy, and there's another kind of constructor called a factory constructor. Factory constructor is the one we are going to use to create our deserialization method. Okay. So the difference between them is this: the normal constructor allows to do objects instantialization. Okay, instantiation. I mean, I'm mumbling the word, like it's kind of like tricky to pronounce, but this is the spelling. The spelling is this. Okay, instantiation. Okay. So this ordinary constructor allow us to do that, but that is kind of like if you want to use what I mean in code. What I'm talking about in code is something like this. For instance, you want to use that user code, um this user class we just created, or user data or user type we just created. We want to make use of it in our main order, right? We first instantiate it, right? That is, we create an object from it. So you could do something like this. Maybe you can just say final. You give it a name, my user, then and you do the instantiation. My AI has auto comment for me again. That is the user, which is the name of that constructor we saw previous, right? Then and you so this is how you instantiate an object. Right? So this is what normal constructor allows you to do. But that is with normal constructor. Let me control it to yeah. All these parameters here, you cannot mess around with it. You just have to leave it the way it is. But factory constructor allow you to process the constructor, like do some kind of work on the value the constructor is using to create the objects. You know, the value we've already you saw when we declared all these values, this name, age, and email, right? So the factory constructor allow you to process them, like work some logic on them, do some logic on them, carry out some action on them, and then before returning and also return the instance of that same object. Okay, that is the same class. So that is what factory constructor allows you to do. And in a lot of instances, in a lot of places, you find it very useful there. Okay, so that's just the idea. So it is that factory constructor we are going to use for our deserialization method. Okay, so for you to create factory constructor, you first use the keyword factory. Okay, then there is another term called what's the name? I can't remember right now, but the process, yeah, anonymous constructor. There's another type of constructor called anonymous constructor, where you kind of mimic. Let me not bog us with a lot of words, but the syntax is this: when you're using factory constructor, you first call the name of the class site, which is the user. Then kind of like before you you give your function a name. The name of the function, we said the standard name they normally use is from Json, right? Then kind of like then you now open your curly braces, right? So the tricky part I was trying to explain before I cut it down, because I don't want us to confuse a lot of is this: when you see this guy here, this is kind of like a method inside this class, right? It is looking as if we've already created a method called from Json. inside this class before we are trying to make use of it here, whereas we are just creating it from the first time, right? So that is the power of factory constructor. It's factory constructor that allows to do that. Then next, this method is going to take the JSON we are fetching from database, right? It is going to take a JSON data in form of map, then and convert it into a data object. Okay, so we specify the parameter like that. We give it a parameter of type map that has this generic, right? I'm not sure if you guys understand what is meant by generic in that, but you can always take it out. We don't have so much time. We don't have a lot of time to talk about everything. So you will want to check out generic creator. So yeah, so this is the type of the parameter. Then let's give the parameter a name. Usually the parameter we are passing to this guy is the JSON, right? The JSON we are trying to deserialize. But the fact here is that the JSON must be also be converted to map first before we can pass it to this guy. Remember what you established earlier on, right? That don't understand that guy called JSON, right? So we cannot deal with it directly inside our data programming. We have to like convert that JSON to map form. Map is like intermediary between serialization and deserialization. Okay, we first have to convert the JSON to map first before passing it to our factory construct. I mean a method. Okay, so because of that, I love using them that are very conceptual. Okay, that can give you just tell you by mere looking at it what exactly you are doing. So that is why I normally name my own as JSON map instead of using that like that generic JSON, because I understand that what I'm passing to this guy is not JSON in actual sense. It is JSON map I'm passing to it. Okay, so that is why I prefer using JSON map instead of just JSON. Okay, then we now have to like return. Oh, let me close this guys so that I can have a wider screen. This is better, right? So the reason why we are having this error now is because our function, we have already stated it that our function has a return type called user, right? It has a return type called user, but you will not return anything. When your function is returning something in that and you will not return that thing yet, that will definitely throw you an error. So that is why once we return something, once we return the user, now you see that error vanish. Okay, the error vanish, but we still have an error because we need to the user has some required field, right? We need to specify them to get rid of this error too. Okay, so now this is where we do the conversion. Okay, conversion of the JSON map into that object. Remember, these are the data objects, right? The that field that we can use. We can always use these guys in that anywhere in our code. Okay, so and these are the one we are creating here. Then we are converting the data we are getting from database through this model. Then I convert them into this kind of guy that you can use into this kind of guys. Okay, that you can use anywhere in our application. So now my AI is still working very competently. Okay, so the JSON map, if you've gone through, like if you've taken your time to explore that, you should understand all these things we are doing. Like there are big stuff in that. Okay, so this is just like assessing a value in a map, right? So we are assessing a name value in that map. I think it's as good as me automating everything, right? Because it's just similar thing we are going to do. So this is how you do it, right? I believe we all get it, right? We are awesome. So that is exactly how you create your deserialization method. Okay, then there's more thing that I used to love to do. Okay, because of experience, like when you are getting a data from a backend, sometimes the server could be the one could fuck you up. Like what I mean by that is it might return a null value for you, like a value different from what you are expecting. Maybe for some reasons, maybe they say if a server error or anything of such. So because of that, you have to get prepared for it. Like you don't want to do something with 100% optimism. Okay, sometimes like you have to make your you have to make up for the worst also, okay? And such a thing is something you always have to consider in programming. So sometimes this name, we know we are getting name from this database we are working with, right? We know from that JSON place so that we know we are getting name from it. But I'm saying most of the time, something can happen actually. I mean, just like just as in life too, right? So something happens. So what I'm going to do now is I'll give it a default value. That if at all anything things go wrong, right? So I'm giving it a default value that it can resort to so that my app should not crash. Because if I work blindly or if I'm so optimistic that things should go well, and at the end of the day, eventually error happens, right? So if I don't give it that default value, my app will just crash, right? And I might not even be able to fix it, which will result to a bad user experience. So because of that, I normally provide a default value. Yeah, when you are using, I mean, when you're providing a default value, there is a null operator you use, right? Yeah, you use this null operator. Let me, what the name? I've forgotten the exact name. I've forgotten the exact name, but it's a null operator. Um, can I remember the exact name? I mean, I cannot remember right now, but that is how we do it. Okay. So then you provide it, and I mean a default value here. So let's say the default value I want to give it is just for it to be an empty string rather than it being null. In programming, null is something that dreads in that rather null dreads us a lot. Like null is our nightmare because when you have a null error in your programming, your app will just crash. So because of that, that provides us with something called null safety. Okay. So this operator is one of the operators in null safety. You must have also seen something like this. You use this one. We'll be using it very soon when we are fetching our data. Something like this. Null access. This one is null accessing operator. They are very much. I mean, not that much actually, but they are quite few in number. So that you use to avoid null value. I think I don't provide this empty string is just like nothing too, but it's better for me for it to be null. Without it, that will set the default to be null. If this guy is not available, that will set it to be null, and my app will crash. But we using this empty string, it's still nothing, but my app will not crash. That's the difference. Okay. So I will also do the same thing for this guy, and I will do the same thing for this guy too. So with this now, we can be right sure that we're in safe hand. Okay. Yeah, there's another thing we can do that. I mean, just to like told to be in the safest hand. Okay, we will do what is called casting. Like we'll cast the objects we are receiving to be in string. Okay, something like this. So we are telling that explicitly that this object, if it is not in a data type, we are expecting string, right? Json has to deal with string. We are expecting string. So, but you are telling that if I'm all first, it is in a, I mean, it is in a format, not in that string. So we want to cast it down to, I mean, string. Let me check my battery percent. If I can go deep in that, I think I can quickly do something. String, there's a data type in that called string like this. We have this as a data type. Then we have another guy like this that is also another data type. These are two different things. I hope you know that they are not the same thing. Okay. So this string this one is non-nullable string. Non-nullable string. Okay. Why this one is a nullable string. So that's the difference. I've already told you how null dread often that programming, like it's a big nightmare to us again. So we don't want to, we want to avoid it as much as we can because anytime it's surfacing our application, it just crash it. Imagine that. So that is why we are doing this for that validation here. It is not necessary. All these add-ons I'm putting out, they are not necessary. We could just stop it the way it was before. That is right after here, before all of this. But I've already established why I'm doing it, right? To be on safer hand, right? To avoid our app from crashing. So I'm telling this guy now that if this guy, I mean, I accept it to be null too, because I said it should, this JSON map name, whatever the value this guy is containing, this name, whatever the value it is containing, I'm telling that it should allow it to, it should allow it to also have opportunity to be null. Do you get that? Like, okay, let's say this name, the name is Precious, right? Let's say the name we are expecting is Precious. I'm just trying to explain how this logic is avoiding our application from crashing. Okay, that's what I'm trying to do now. The name you are expecting is Precious, right? Precious is a type called string in DAX. So imagine something happened to our server. We couldn't fetch the data, right? Or we couldn't, our server couldn't give us Precious in a string format. Like something will just happen. It clearly happened there, but let's just assume that something like that happened, right? So that is now giving us pressure, or it's not giving us pressures. In that case, it should default to null. So I'm telling, then if it has to default to a null, that will throw, our application will crash. We have runtime error because that don't want to deal with null, unless we explicitly tell it that, okay, we also want to welcome null, like we want to accommodate it too. So that is why I cast it down that this guy should also be able to be a null, but we still never want null. That is why I provide this default value that, okay, it should be able to be a null, but if it happens to be a null, I would rather prefer it to be empty string rather than null. So I hope that makes sense to you. So you can, null safety is a very interesting topic in that you can try to explore it later if you're not getting it right now. So hopefully it will make sense if you put more time trying to understand it. So yeah, so I will also, let me just copy because my battery is running low and we are running out of time at the same time. Let me just automate them with my AI this time around rather than typing everything. Okay. Why that one is throwing error, I don't know. Okay, this guy is not supposed to be here. Is this throwing error? Still throwing error. Okay. Our AI make mistake for the first time. All right, awesome. So this is the end of it. Now we've successfully created our model class, a blueprint for the data we are trying to fetch. Okay. So now, yeah, it's good coming this far. Knowing this one alone, like it's a lot. Okay, if this is the only thing you are able to get from this guy, it's a lot because it's something you'll be doing almost all the time. Then I put these add-ons for you to be able to like make your application safer at the same time also. So next thing now is for us to start fetching, doing the real thing, like fetching data. Sending API request. Fetch that JSON place so that fetch it from the server, from the computer that is giving us, and use it in our application. So that's where we are going next now. So remember, we are using MVC approach, right? So now we want to do networking, dealing with data that has to do with internet, like HTTP requests and all. So it is called networking, right? So we are doing networking now. So controller, such logic will have to be handled in a controller following the MVC pattern, right? We'll do it in controller. So now let's create a file there. What should I call it? Okay, let me call it API service again. API service. Usually if it is it's just like this, our application is of no use. It's just for a learning sake. Like don't worry. I'm just trying to tell you that this name could have been more streamlined. For instance, if I'm dealing with user now, it could have been user controller. That is the way the how you see things done. Okay, I would have just called it user controller because it is taking care of user model. But then that user controller, the way it should look like, it should be like the kind of information you use to create an account, like your username, your email address, and all. But that is not kind of thing we are dealing with here. So they will not concur if we should go about it that way. So because of that, I'll just use API service dot that. Yeah, that's cool. We are having error in this main dot that. So what is causing the error? Okay, we'll not put something here. Right? We'll not set our home page. So let's quickly create a home page in this folder. That is our view folder. Remember, view folder will take care of what user will be seeing, right? So let's create a folder called homepage dot dots. So then we'll render, let's create a stateless widget for now. Then let's call it homepage. Then we can just return a text that says homepage, right? Let's return a scaffold. Then let's return a text that says that just say homepage. Okay, so that's, I just want us to get rid of the error. We can centralize this text also. So this cool. Then we'll now render this guy inside this main dot dot again. We'll render it there. We call it homepage, right? Homepage. So that will help you automatically import it. It has been imported now up to your homepage of that. So we get rid of that error. Let me run our app to see what we are doing all along, so that we can see the changes you are making as we move on. So let me connect my phone. Remember, I'm still testing with my phone. It makes my programming kind of like faster than using my device emulator. If I'm using my device emulator, my system will be lagging. That's why I always prefer using my phone. So I want to run the application now for us to see the interface of the application before we move on. Oh, I want to open my terminal. Yeah. Okay, let me wait for it to come up. So while waiting, let's go back to our API series. So let's create our class files. We'll call it API series. API series. I'll run an ADB. I'm using ADB actually, so you don't have to care about this that much. But if you want to know how it is, then maybe you can reach out to me later. Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna make use of my IP address now. I understand how secretive it is, but I've already worked on my own to be changing periodically. So don't think you are going to hack my account, okay? Hack into my phone, because after this tutorial, the thing will change. It changes periodically. It is not what you are seeing right now. It should be next time again. Oh, sorry, I misconnect. Disconnect. Okay, so that is it. All right, so now I can now run Flutter on now. So it is running. So while the thing is running, let me first of all join with my mobile device so that I can also share my screen through it. Let me join with my mobile device. Okay. All right. So I will share my screen. So that when our app launch, we should be able to see it all together. Okay, that is why I'm doing that. So now, I'm scared already because of my laptop battery, but we can still do something. Okay, if you are fast, if you want things snappy. Okay, so now excuse me. Excuse me. All right, all right, all right, all right. So now, yeah, we have to have a method here that will help us to fetch the data. So let's call the method fetch or get users. Since you are searching, I mean, we are creating users, right? Let's call it get users, okay? But first thing first, first thing before we get the method right, or let's go on and create the method called get users. Let's have it, this guy down first, okay? So there's still a lot of work to be done on it, okay? So we are sending requests to a server, right? How are we doing it? We have to have the URL, right? I mean, you must have thought of it like that. I mean, at least there have to be a URL to which we are making the request. Of course, we actually need it. So we are going to grab the URL now. Let's go to the placeholder. So the URL, technically we call that URL endpoint, okay? So, well, as I've been saying, endpoint is that URL I'm talking about. So we said we want to choose this guy, right? This is the one we want to make work with. Let's click on it. It gave us the endpoint. So we just copy it. Then go back to our code. Create a string to hold it, right? Because it's a string, right? String URL. Then and paste it here, right? Okay. So yeah, this is no, not inside our function. Okay, you are not placing it inside your function. You can do it there, but on a grand scheme of things, you want to be able to access the URL in other places too. So it's just better this way, okay, rather than it being inside the function directly. So this we've gotten our endpoint URL now, so we are good to go. So now let's go back to our method. You know, if you remember or if you are in the last class, part of the assignment I gave us is also to go and explore asynchronous programming in that. So that's what we're going to do now. Asynchronous programming, I'm very sensitive about my battery, but I could have dived deeper into it. But I want us to be able to build the application before my system runs down. So I won't be able to go very deep in it. But basically what it is all about is you program asynchronously or you use async await when you are fetching when you are doing when you're doing computation that is kind of like heavy things like when you are querying database, like you are communicating with a database, is intensive computation. Okay, it is heavy on your laptop. In fact, such computation is not your CPU that is running it anymore. All this coding we've been writing, all this logic we've been writing, what it's actually running it for is our system CPU. But there are some heavy tasks, kind of like you are reading a file, or you are writing on a file, or you are working with a database, or you are dealing with a very crazy calculation. All this one, they are heavy computation. Okay, so they're way too heavy on your CPU. So what your CPU will do is that they will send it to another thing. Usually your system, the system you are using, okay, they will send it to help them handle that intensive logic. Okay, so that is basically how it works. Then that kind of logic that kind of logic, when it is going on, what do you expect to be the fate of you? Oh my goodness, my battery is not very low. Maybe another time we explain that async await, but let's just write our code. Okay, so if you want to write async await, you start with feature. Okay, um when you look at this the database you are working with, we could just do something like this and return. We've already established here that we are returning something called feature. Since we're not returning that, is why we are having this error. So if you want to avoid it, you could just do something like this. You can just return empty string. Sorry, I keep on calling it array, but it's actually string in array is for data JavaScript. It is string in that. Yeah, so something like this would help, but there's no point since you're not returning an empty listing. So let's just have their error for now. We'll solve it later. Then next thing now is we will have to import. Yeah, to make, I forgot this, or I didn't forget. Yeah, we just get to it now. For you to make HTTP requests or to do networking, communicate with external stuff through HTTP requests, like HTTPS protocol. In that, you have two choices. Okay, you have two choices rather. You either that is them. There are two things that allow you to do such a thing. One is using HTTP package. You install a package from pub.dev called HTTP, or this guy allow you to do HTTP request. Okay, so or you use another one called Dio. The other guy is called Dio. So these are the two packages we use in that to make HTTP requests. Yeah, they are all very handy. They all work fine, but they have bit of use cases. Okay, I don't know. Probably my laptop is gonna switch off before we could finish this project, but maybe I'll just see what I can do later, sure. But right now, let's continue until it switch off. I mean, here is so where there's no light right now. Yeah, so the HTTP is very okay, it's very beautiful, it is very handy, but then it has some limitation that this diode kind of like take care of. When you are working with a very complex data, I mean, an application, a very complex application, you would prefer to use diode instead rather than an HTTP, because diode is just designed for something complex. Okay, so since you are dealing with just simple HTTP requests, you're going to work with HTTP. That will give you something they call it interceptor. Interceptor allow you to append authorization and header directly to your HTTP request. So because of that, it's just very beautiful for complex application. But HTTP, a lot of things you have to do it manually. You see it right now. So, but it is very simple. It is recommended for simple projects like this one we are working on. So let's go to why. Okay, our application is still running. Wow, I don't even know. I thought it has run already. I thought it has run already. So I've opened another terminal already. So when it comes up, I will before that, let me go to my pub.dev. I'm sure you all know how to add packages to your project, but if you don't know, you just follow. I mean, there are two ways to do it. You can go to pub.dev and search for the package you want to add. That is HTTP, right? Then you can copy this. This is it. Usually you click on it to go to read more about it. You know, I've already said it earlier that you should be reading documentation almost all the time for you to understand what you want to do, right? So I've used it before, like I'm conversatory, so they don't need for me to read the will. Okay, so but for you, you can later when you're doing it, go to the page, see how they said you should make use of it. Okay, so I'll just copy it. I'll not go to the page because I don't have enough battery right now. Oh damn, my laptop is hanging already. Maybe the application is about to start. That's why it is hanging. Okay, it has copied. Then we'll go back to our application. We'll go back to our application. Go to your pubspec.yaml file. It is lagging now because of, oh, I lost connection. Oh, that is the application is kind of like I've started. Maybe why is it not displaying? Let me restart it again. Maybe something happened. Oh. Okay, what I'll do is this. I'll stop sharing my screen for mobile. I'll let the application to start first before I'll start sharing it. Okay, so I think that will solve the issue. I will run Flutter on again so that our application can. Oh damn! Sorry, I was running Flutter on here. This is a different project, not the one we are working with. I didn't notice that. Maybe I should have closed this project to avoid this confusion, but I've done a lot of work in it. I don't want to lose track of the changes I've made to it, so that's why I just leave it open. Sorry for the mistake. My laptop is still hanging because the application is kind of like a bit more involved. A lot of things going inside. That's why it is hanging my laptop right now. But let's wait a minute. Things will come back to normal. Okay, I think it's back to life now. It's back to life. So these are our own projects. Like, oh, the thing failed. Wow, 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 wow. We'll call it failure. Maybe just because my laptop is lagging, nothing should make it to fail. I'll run it again. Okay. There's no reason why it should fail. Let me hide this guy. Oh, it seems still running. It is okay. It complains about our network. Maybe our network is fluctuating. Probably the network was fluctuating like this one. So it will hardly run again. I'll just abort it. And I'll run it again. Okay. So while that is going on, let's add our package to our prospect. Yeah, you go to your dependency and line heights dependency. So indentation is very important in your public.yaml file. Okay, you make sure that you never mess up with it, because if you mess up with it, the sad thing is it's not gonna show you compile time error, but your application will never run. So you follow this indentation that you meet here. That is any package you are adding should be consistent with this very Flutter SDK. Like they should be in line. So that indentation matters. You can also expand YAML like YAML markup language. You can exploit it on your own. Yeah, so that is it. Then after you added a package, if you have a come here, go to this upload, upload or downloads. My laptop again is not you know to use that feature, or you just come to your terminal